I'm Ryan.
And I'm Talia.
We're both licensed marriage and family therapists.
And today,
like every day,
we're here to debunk myths
and deliver truth about dating, relationships, and everything in between.
Trust us.
It's awesome. Episode 93.
Unbelievable.
I
don't trust you. That's not right.
Nor should you. Why would you trust me? After
it's
all,
not like 93 hours plus of reliable connection.
Oh my gosh. And on top of just the hours of recording, hours upon hours of chatting before, after, and planning.
Yes. Friend hangouts.
So what did I do?
Yeah.
What did I do that had you lose your trust?
You looked at me weird. Or you did something that reminded me of a previous podcast host.
Yeah.
Partner.
Wink, wink.
You podcasted with somebody else. There's me projecting because I have two others. So perfect. This is right on theme for today.
Says the person who actually does other podcasts.
Yeah, regularly. So I'm the cheater.
Yes. Well then, Talia, I think you need to come have a sit down with me, and we need to talk a little bit about how we can get back on track together.
All right.
How to repair some of this.
I guess today's episode is about, it's about trust and how to repair and reconnect and kind of foster trust in your relationship. So you know me with the dictionary definitions. I can lay that on us whenever we're ready, but
Lay it down. Let's get into repairing trust. What the hell are we talking about?
All right. So trust is defined as a firm belief in the reliability, truth, ability, or strength of someone or something. So in this case, it would be your relationship partner and the relationship. And I would say, if I wanted to add a little bit more to that, having faith or confidence and placing reliance on, and commit someone or something to the safekeeping of. So you make an agreement essentially to hold that person or that thing safe and close to you. So based on that definition of trust, many individuals would like to have trust in a relationship. I think that is one of the core needs. Not that goes without saying. Often it does, but I think it ought to be highlighted, I would say. When we are working on building trust, it often happens with a natural unfolding for many reasons. The first couple that I can think of is you don't quite know that person yet. And in the beginning, you are hopefully showing your best version of yourself. Ideally, it's your most authentic version that remains congruent and consistent. Of course, you'll disclose like things about your past or life experiences as you build trust and get to know a person. Most anybody you date from the beginning started out as a stranger. So I wouldn't recommend rushing through trying to build trust. Does this person say what they're going to do? Do they honor their agreements? Those are at least two factors to look for. Is this a trustworthy person? Do they keep their word to me, to themselves, to other people? Have other people in their life reported them to be reliable and that I can have confidence in them according to this definition? That's where I would want to start with what is trust and how to define it.
Yeah, I love that. I think the only thing I would add to it is specifically from my EFT style lens as a therapist, is that we like to talk about in the EFT world as can I count on you? Will you be there for me? And
perfect. And
not just physically or like for, chores, but emotionally. Are you there for me? Can I count on you to be there for me?
Yeah. Great.
So that's just to add to that piece. And then for repairing it. Oh,
I was going to say, how long do you think it takes to build trust? Because that was one of the questions that I've been asked recently.
Oh, interesting. That's so different for every person, especially like you just described like how
they're probably hearing this and being like, that's not the answer I want. I know, give me a timeline.
Well, the thing is like, there are all those factors you just described in defining trust of how it's built, but some person can meet another person and they come into that meeting with, I'm going to inherently trust someone unless they give me something else to do. So they showed up, they're here. That's already a commitment of trust building for that individual. So they're like, all right, cool. I'm going to trust you and give you the benefit of the doubt until you rupture it. Versus other people will go in with, no, you're doing the bare basics. You showed up. cool. That's one data point of trust.
Yeah.
Now I need to, over time see that when I text you, you text me back. That when we make plans, you follow through with them. That when I share something vulnerable with you, you hold me, respect me, and maybe even reciprocate with some vulnerability back. Like those build up. Then you might cross the threshold of, oh, okay, I trust this person. It's not really universal per person, and also it's not a simple. There is like, in a sense, a line that gets crossed where you go, okay, I now trust this person in relationship, but it's not a defined clear line. It can be like, well, I trust them in this way, but not in this way. Like think really early on in a relationship and like, well, I trust them to have a good time and a good conversation with me, but I don't know if I trust them to hold my deepest pains and secrets, or I trust them enough to where I'm down to like make out with them, but I don't trust them with my full body yet. Everyone's different in how that goes, and it's not like a firm line. So sorry, listener question, how long does it take to trust? It's so unique, I think.
I also differentiate between trust and benefit of the doubt. So this might be a more fringe opinion. I don't think that they go hand in hand, and whoever wants to fight me on this, you're more than welcome to. It's been a week, so I'm gonna throw hands verbally.
Go.
Trust versus, or compared to benefit of the doubt. The benefit of the doubt is thinking the positive or the good of somebody instead of the bad when you have the choice to do either. So instead of only being in doubt or a place of mistrust, in this case, you would be like, well, I don't really know. They haven't done anything yet. I'm going to lend them some credibility, and hopefully it works out the same way. And then if they follow through on that and the benefit of the doubt was truly a benefit, that can slowly lead to trust. So they are kind of like cousins. But when you don't know somebody and they are a stranger, and you add in what we've talked about before, that developmental stage of trust versus mistrust, those beliefs, the core beliefs from the previous episode of how do you view the world? What are your schemas of the world? It's difficult to give someone the benefit of the doubt when you have been shown that people aren't trustworthy, or they can't be trusted, whether that's from your own life experience or messages that you've received. So giving somebody the benefit of the doubt can be difficult. And I want to highlight that, yes, it can go with building trust, but it's often safer for other people to be like, I'm going to be a little reserved. I'm going to give you the doubt, and then I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, and then I will trust you, rather than going in with this blind faith of like, they're the most amazing thing, and I have every confidence in them that they'll never betray me. That's more pie in the sky eyed thinking, and I don't think that's going to be helpful when inevitably I've let myself down. I'm sure you've let yourself down. It happens. So you don't want to bank on they are trustworthy because, or only because every time I've given them the benefit of the doubt, they've given me something to, work off of. But I would say be a little bit more, and this is just me, being a little more pessimistic, be very mindful and not so quick to just be like, oh, well, I trust them. And then I trust them until they're not trustworthy, rather than like, I'm going to have them build and show me that they are trustworthy. You can start from either way.
I mean, I would agree in that I don't recommend that extreme of benefit of the doubt equals trust.
Yeah.
But I do think that there are plenty of people who are closer to that equivalency. So I think that's just important to acknowledge.
No, I like the perspective.
Yeah, I definitely agree that, that's almost like a childlike version of trust, very young,
blind faith.
Oh, you're an adult, so I trust you. And there's something like pie in the sky, but also lovely about it. But of course, that is dangerous and has its risk and pitfalls. So yeah, yes. I definitely wouldn't be in that space where I'd recommend that. I do think it's important to balance in the benefit of the doubt with trust and pay attention to that. And that's one of the things, and why, like, to that initial, like, kind of like curiosity from, I think you said a listener, or from someone on Instagram. Got it. There you go. We have to develop our own internal tuners.
Yeah.
And that's really tricky. because they get developed pretty early in life based on our early relationships and experiences, and then they
Mhm.
shift as we have more experiences, often negative experiences, and we have to like really pay attention to like, hey, what is my internal meter of trust? Like, how does it gauge things? And that's hard, which is why I don't think it's a one size fits all. I know we're kind of down a rabbit hole here and not
No,
quite
but
quite
this
where
is
we're
the
going,
important
but
part
it's
of
so
like
important to
trust,
discuss.
how to build it, what is it like? Those what we just talked about
Yeah.
covers it really, really thoroughly. And it's maybe not a matter of how chronologically long you've known the person. I would say it's more a matter of the math of the frequency in which you're interacting with them. Like, how many interactions have you had? And how many times, not that you're, no, don't literally tally it, that would be a whole other topic. But if they say they're going to do something, do they follow through on it?
Uh-huh.
If they tell you they're going to be there for you, do they follow through? To your point with the EFT definition, does that feel congruent? And more often than not, with like an 80 to 90% success rate, barring life happening, and they're trying to their very best to uphold that trust that you can have faith in me, do you see that happening? So I would say, weighing the scales, classic Libra here, weighing the scales, does the amount of times that they have given you reason to trust them outweigh maybe one or two times where you're like, you didn't follow through on your word, I didn't love that, but you had a valid reason and you told me it as soon as you could. Okay, I can still trust you.
Yeah.
That's what I would add, or that last thing I would add to the first part of this.
Yeah. And that's trust development in general,
Yes.
and like in a
Yeah.
nutshell, and about how
Yeah.
we would like look at that.
Yeah.
But for today's episode, we also want to talk about, so that's happened. I like that
Yeah.
scale thing that you're talking about.
Yes.
80, 90, maybe a couple times, something's happened, but you're at some point in your relationship
Yeah.
and you're thinking, okay, I trust this person, but then something happens that ruptures it. And for me, for this episode, I don't think it's useful to go into those different styles. I do want to acknowledge that this could be anything from major trust, like attachment injury repair rupture,
Yeah.
i.e., infidelity,
Yep.
all the way to, you were just mentioning, oh, we were just starting to date and you canceled on me last minute for our date. And maybe that had like, a bit of a sting and a, well, wait, I can't count on this person, kind of trust rupture there. So,
Yes.
I'm hoping. I mean, we'll qualify
Yeah.
different techniques based on the severity of the rupture,
Yeah.
but I'm hoping we can kind of look at this as no matter how much trust rupture there is, or how depth of trust there was, or where you're at in the relationship, what are just some really good ways to look at or think about repairing trust, where something bad went down, you're doubting trust now between you and your partner, and how do you repair that? How do you like realistically go about trying to regrow that bridge of trust between you and your partner?
So when there's like one acronym from, I don't really use Gottman anymore as much, I would say, but there's one acronym that I remember that when we're working on repairing trust that we use, and the acronym is ATTUNE. So you want to bring awareness to the situation and listen to what your partner is bringing up. Like, both of you have to be aware of what it was. Otherwise, you're going to be fighting, almost trying to convince your partner to see it from your side. So you have to be aware, turn toward them. So be present with them and match their bid for connection when they're trying to discuss this with you. Be tolerant of the other person, which means to interact with and still have respect for. Be understanding of them. Give a non-defensive response, and then be able to empathize with them. So that when we're talking about the actual conversation, that acronym would be what I would recommend, just keeping that in mind, which is generally how to approach people in life anyway, especially when we're coming at it from a trust repair or rebuilding of trust. This helps, especially when you remind yourself, hopefully this is true, more often than not, they have given me reason to trust them. We have gotten through all of our hard days. I feel safe tuning to them. I feel safe being vulnerable, leaning into this, and also have done the work on myself to know how much of this is my stuff from my previous experiences that I might be projecting, and how much of this is truly about whatever this rupture incident was, and how can I stay focused on that as much as possible. So not only would I want your response to be non-defensive, that means I also have to hold myself to the same attunement standard and not be defensive or coming out the gate of like, well, before you say anything, you already know I'm going to be upset. Blah. Like, I don't want to be defensive while trying to defend myself. I want to be vulnerable. And that can feel unsafe if we have had a rupture and we can't view our partner with that full amount of trust, because they do look different.
Yeah. Well, when you mentioned that part about like going into this and remembering, hey, this is safe, I can do this. I actually think this tool is most useful when, as you just said, that it can feel unsafe after a trust rupture. And I think the nice part of this acronym is to remember, okay, this is what a safe conversation looks like.
Yes.
So I don't feel safe with this partner who I don't trust as much or at all anymore, but I can still do these things. I can still use this acronym to attune.
Yeah.
And the great thing about that tool is that then you're setting yourself and your partner up for a productive conversation.
Yes.
And that productive conversation is the first stepping stone to repairing trust. If you think that repair, like if you think of trust as this, amazing, strong, like bridge, think like a Golden Gate Bridge. It's gorgeous, it's amazing, it's a wonder, but then boom, the trust gets broken, the bridge is damaged and apart. You still got to get across the water. So when we're repairing trust, we're starting with maybe these just like baby stone steps. Do one step across the water, and then the next, and then the next, and then you realize, oh wait, now that I'm out here, I can put the pole back up for the first leg of the bridge, until finally you're back to Golden Gate status. So all of that, I'm like putting the analogy with the acronym now, that ability to remember to quote unquote attune with those different facets in a conversation, that is giving you strength to work towards a safe conversation when it doesn't feel safe. And by doing so, if you have a safe conversation, you're more likely to have a productive and connecting conversation. Doesn't mean you resolved it, but it's like productive. And you feel at the end maybe at least respectful or understood, or vice versa with your partner. Boom, you've gotten your first trust building step. So a lot of what I'm thinking about with repairing trust in this conversation and with my couples is, how do you just get one step there? Don't rush to, wait a second, I can't get across the water. We're not up on the bridge anymore. It's like, no, sorry, that went down. The earthquake happened. It crashed down. Now we're rebuilding it, and you got to take it a step at a time. But every single step, every single block is a win because you're working on the repair.
And I want to really highlight, it takes time. And depending on the type of trust rupture, if your actions are what caused the rupture, let's say, you don't get to put a timeline on it, and you don't get to be frustrated when your partner's still bringing things up in a few months, because that is their way of processing. You can absolutely put some parameters on how it's brought up, for sure. Like, please don't yell. I can hear you best if obviously it's okay to cry, but if you're sobbing hysterically, I can't comfort you. Like there's a parameters you can put on how things get brought up. But I would highly recommend, after that first conversation, that first step, when your partner, don't be surprised, depending on the rupture, wants to talk about it more, process it more, needs reassurance as part of a rebuilding of trust. That's what I work on with my couples. You would do yourself a very good service and your partnership a very good service if the goal of the rupture is to like indeed repair and continue the relationship, to be patient and understand in that moment. It doesn't feel like for your partner that you've had the conversation before. Like, to try and just adopt the mindset of like, let me go back to how empathetic I was the first time they ever brought it up. Ground yourself, be that steady force for them to be vulnerable against, and then being able to ask them or let them know, I hear you. If you do, is there anything I can do to support you? What could I do for you in this moment to help you to feel reassured? Is there something I am doing that I should stop doing? Is there something I'm not doing that I should start doing to help you feel like it is safe to trust me again? And I want to give a very big caveat. I don't want to go on a tangent on this, but a very big caveat. this is not what I would recommend if this is like somebody who's pathologically lied, has a very severe concerning like criminal behavior, personality disorder, psychological manipulation. That is not the episode that we're talking about today. That would not be safe to repair, I would say. But this is like your partner's like, I messed up. I get it. Please stop bagging on me about it. I don't want to feel the shame every single day that comes with it. Without saying it, I can tell you I feel it. Please, I'm happy to rebuild trust with you. Please bring it up in this way. And a lot of it is time, not just waiting. It's not like we start the clock and don't talk for 6 months. And at 6 months, we wake up and we're like, all better. It's really more about what are you actively doing to rebuild trust? And if I give you my word, can you count on me? That has to amplify. You have to be on your absolute best behavior during that very soon after rupture repair time, because your partner is seeing everything you do. I can promise you this. I've been through it myself, and categorizing it as not safe, safe, not safe, safe. You're an idiot. I can trust you. You're an idiot. I can trust you. Like, I can't follow through with you. I can't, like, they're going to bucket your behavior. So be very mindful of being on your ideal best behavior, even more so than you already usually are.
Yeah, good context heads up about, we are talking about a relationship where both partners are interested in repairing. There is genuine willingness for both partners where they want to both repair trust. And then also to like a little bit reiterate, but just make sure it's super clear to listeners about these great ideas you're throwing out there. It's because it's super common that a trust rupture happens. Maybe it's one partner's fault. Like, think infidelity, that's an easy one where one person steps out of the relationship.
Right.
And then comes back and, wants to repair, is genuinely sorry. And for months, they're like, we're working on it, we're sorry. And then still like a year later, the betrayed partner gets really upset or scared. And then the person who had the affair is like, what the hell? Like, I thought we did this. That's why you're talking about this and giving some good tips to that person about how to approach that. It's because it's really common to get to that place where the person who is still struggling with trust can have these flare-ups and can hit those fears and those insecurities. And then the person who is like been working really hard to repair the trust, but also feels like, hey, I thought we covered this ground already, can get pretty frustrated, and actually replying with frustration might actually kind of like damage some of the trust you've already rebuilt. It could actually damage that bridge you've already started collaborating on. And so that's why I just want to like highlight that what you're talking about, Talia, is because it's a really common thing. So don't fall into that trap. Use Talia's tips and tricks about how to, it's still there. That makes sense. Give it that
fresh
time,
in the
even
moment.
if you've been working on it.
Yeah. And that's something that's, I'm very glad at some point along my life, I will just leave it very general, that I heard that advice from a trusted source who I respect and admire. And I'm very appreciative that that person said something and gave that feedback, because it is true. And it doesn't feel like it's in the past in those moments. You moved a certain way. You checked your phone a certain way. You did something a certain way as my partner that brought me the past right back in front focus. It's not the past for me in that moment. It is right here, right now. You just did the thing, the checking behavior, whatever else. And I really work with my couples on take the deep breath and lean in and share with your partner as calm as you can. And usually the calmer the voice, the more intense it is. And the person's like, oh shit, I really want to listen to that.
Yeah.
I'm having a moment. I'm not trying to cause a fight. I'm having a moment. What I just experienced or what you just did or what I just saw brought me right back to the incident. Pick a name for it, whatever. I need reassurance. I need to know that's not what you're up to, because you used to do X, Y, Z. And similar with repairing for substance use. I'm working with a lot more substance use clients now, families and couples, and how to repair trust is very, very required, obviously, for that healing. If you used to do a certain behavior, or you used to go to a certain place or call a certain friend when you were going to go use, if I see those behaviors and I know you're not using, you're sober 10 years, but I know that that's what's happening, my body's going to go back to, are they going to do cocaine again? Are they going to go drink again? So instead of letting your brain run wild, check yourself. This is the other tip I would recommend. Check yourself on what's the story you're telling yourself and stop it in its tracks and share with your partner. Hey, when I hear you call so-and-so or go plan for this, the story I'm telling myself is that the untrustworthiness is going to enter back into our relationship. I know up here it's not true, but in here I'm freaking out. Can I please have reassurance? There's no shame in asking for reassurance and to clarify with your partner what you think you're seeing. Or what you are seeing and you are making meaning of. I should say it that way. If you have a visual hallucination, please contact a mental health professional.
Yes. Yeah, present attunement is such a big thing that I work with my couples with.
Yes.
And that is so that couples don't get stuck on, wait, you're talking about that thing that happened a year ago, and couples can get back into their stuck cycles of communication by doing that. And instead remembering, wait, present attunement. In this moment, my trust fears are coming up right now. And that's where I talk with couples. I use like the alarm bell analogy of, all right, so after the Golden Gate Bridge fell down, we installed an alarm system so that the next time that would happen and maybe cause the bridge to go down, boom, the alarm can go on and we can make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yep.
Cool. We like the alarm system. It keeps us safe.
Yes.
But we got to remember that that's what it is and what's going on. And so alarm system is like in the present moment, you looking at your phone in this moment that brought me back to a year ago.
Yes.
Of what I learned later was something that really caused a big trust breach.
Yeah.
And I'm not harping on a year ago, you looking at the phone. I'm saying right now,
in this moment,
hey, that alarm system just went whoop, it's on, woo, 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 woo. I'm really struggling right now here, my partner.
Yeah.
So first thing that I'm kind of repeating, but just a different way you said is like, first tip and trick from me is come from a present attunement standpoint. You gave great examples, Talia, of how to say that. Hey, in this moment, I'm really struggling. That I have those fears came up right now. I saw you look at your phone and I'm this is hard. Can you reassure me right now that we're okay?
Right.
Or from the other end, present attunement going, oh, I see that that's upsetting for you. Looked at my phone. Hey, I'm here with you. What do you need to know? What do you want to see? I got you. You matter to me. I'll answer anything. Present to me in the present, not no, I didn't do that, or that happened in the past. Well, I was like, no, right here, I got you.
Stop blaming me. Yeah.
Everyone set aside the future and the past. Just go like, wait, in this moment, the alarm's on.
Yes.
What do you need now? What reassurance can I give you in this moment? So that's the first like trick, or not trick, tip and trick for there of present attunement. I think also in that place, I'll just do a second one. But I think also in that place, it's remembering that repairing trust is in those moments of present attunement.
Yes.
That is just like I was saying earlier, where attune, the Gottman acronym attune, allows you to have a productive conversation. If you stay presently attuned, then boom, you can have Ryan's trick number 2, which is an actual trust building moment.
Yep.
I'm here. This is difficult. Can we reassure? Yes, let's work and feel good and let the present experience of, oh, wait a second. My partner looked at the phone, but they're here with me.
Yeah.
That feels so good that they're here and they are paying attention to me. They're listening to me. They're there. Letting that go in. It's easier to just say like, cool, have these conversations and it quote unquote builds trust. But it takes both partners allowing that emotional wave to wash over them to feel it inside, which is what will actually allow that alarm system to get turned off. So that's how those kind of go hand in hand. Present attunement into having a connecting conversation. That is a huge step of repair for trust.
And part of present attunement is if you are the one who did the behavior that ruptured the trust, have what lets us know as the partner who received that behavior, and if we're willing to work through it with you, another demonstration of ongoing awareness is that you catch yourself when you do something similar and that we don't have to be the only ones saying it. How do you not see how similar this is and the defensiveness to this? And I'm not mocking to be rude. It's just the voice that I use with my couples when I try and demonstrate a conflict, when they're like, what do you, I don't know what you're talking about. That's not the same thing at all. It is the same thing.
Mhm.
It's the exact same effing thing. And if you don't see it that way, now we're in a fight. So instead of it turning into a conflict, if you know, let's say like going out to the code previously for going out to do whatever the thing was I'm going to go pick up milk at the store. And you never came back with milk and you came back wasted, or I had to pick you up or whatever else, or you smelled like a perfume, any of those things. We're not getting into that in this episode. When you go to do that, and we have had, especially in couples therapy, explicit things of, I need reassurance when you use those previous phrases. What lets me know as the receiving partner, I'm going out for milk. It is actually milk this time. I'm aware that I used to say it like that. I want to assure you that that is not what is happening. Do you need anything else from me? That goes such a long way in the attunement and staying in the present moment, because it lets me know you heard me, not only in this moment, you heard me in the previous moments too. And you remembered it, which helps especially women to feel like we matter and you care about us when you remember details about our life and our relationship, and then you're doing something about it. It's much, much safer and better for the relationship, rather than it being like, oh, and the defense, well, here we go again. When are you going to get over this? Is something you should never say along the path to repairing trust. Going to be very, very bad when it comes to the overall health of your relationship. If that's what your response is like, ugh, here we go again. You did the thing. I'm sorry. You don't get to be upset that I'm bringing it up when you're the one who betrayed the trust.
Well, I'm going to get a little
Counter
against
me.
that idea.
Counter me.
Because I get where that comes from, where it's like, again, after time, it's like, hey, what's going on? Because that's a different type of trust breach, where it's like, hey, I've been working so hard to repair. And then this happens, and then my partner's alarm system goes off again.
Right.
I agree. I don't like the, what the hell, like what's going on. We all have to take responsibility.
You can absolutely feel it. Don't say it.
But I just want to honor that. That's where, like, with the really big ruptures, one trust breach can turn into another one down the road while you're still repairing.
Yes.
So I just want to honor that it's like, oh my gosh, I really am just going to get milk, and now you're quote unquote flipping out again. Well, if you let that frustration out, that's not going to really be useful. But it's still important to attune to. Okay, but there's another trust dynamic going on the other direction now.
Yes.
Okay, but how do you, instead of being frustrated, shift into, how do we keep building the next Golden Gate Bridge? And I like what you're saying, because it's an example of trust building behavior. So with the milk example, it's like, I'm going to get milk. I know in the past that was a thing. So you're taking proactive initiative. And that's one of the big camps of repairing trust, is the trust building behaviors.
So, words and behaviors, and they have to match, because congruency as human beings and behavioral conditioning builds trust. Same with training a dog. You have a dog, you know this. If you're trying to train her with treats or a clicker or whatever else, if you want her to shake every time you say shake, look at how much you had to build in behaviorally before that. Good girl, here's a treat, here's this. Consistency and congruency. That is the key behaviors. Whatever the behavior is, it must be consistent and congruent in the direction of repair. Inconsistent or intermittent reinforcement in a positive direction is the strongest addictive schedule. And that's also going to be the antithesis of repairing trust, because I will share this, and that's what I work on with couples too. You have to hit it almost 100% of the time when you're working on those behaviors and those words, especially in the beginning, before you can quote unquote slack off a little bit. And I'm not advocating for like, let me just fake it for 6 months and then go back to my previous self. That's not what I'm saying. This is a time period of heightened awareness, heightened attunement, and really thoroughly prioritizing the relationship. That is what I'm like encouraging my couples and whoever is listening to this and thinking about that repair. The request is not, well, I'm going to parent you and you need to be on your best behavior and I want you to feel scrutinized. You're allowed to feel frustrated by my frustration. You can have whatever emotional response you want to me feeling concerned about the milk incident, let's say, and how we both go about verbalizing the emotion that's being evoked makes all the difference.
Absolutely. Just for a re-hit, congruency of words and actions for trust building behavior and doing that consistently. That's going to be probably, like, I would say, I don't know, 75% of repairing trust is once that's hashed out. But a really important 25% is those other things I was talking about, we were talking about, that is trust building reassurance. Because that's just a type of behavior, but it has a more emotional component to it. So I like to kind of separate the two. There's those behaviors, congruency, consistency, but then also when there is maybe a flub of, oops, I went to get the milk, I forgot to like do the thing we agreed I was going to do. That sucks.
Do it as soon as you can after, just like a birth control pill. Take it as soon as you remember. As soon as you remember.
And when you're rebuilding the Golden Gate Bridge, you're going to drop a bolt or two into the water.
You're human. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But then don't let that derail the great work you've done, both of you. Don't let that alarm system then go out of whack and realize, oh no, they did it again. It's like, be gracious, go, yep, I'm really scared. But that's where trust building reassurance comes in, like we said before, of sit, attune, talk, and in a sense, that's going to be the antidote. And like I said earlier, it's going to help turn the alarm bell off. Okay, if the trust building behavior didn't work out, drop that bolt, something fell through. Then instead, in this moment, I'm really, really upset, alarms on. Let me turn and go back to those questions I said at the very beginning. Are you there for me? Can I count on you to be there for me? And let that in as best you can, which takes a lot of, that's another, again, it's trust building. It's hard to do. You've got to develop that as a couple together. But that's one way to do a mini repair within the larger scheme of repairing trust. I hope I'm making that clear, but the two like important camps, trust building behaviors and trust building reassurances when these trust fears are on the table between people in a relationship.
And what you just shared brought up a point that I wanted to make sure that I touched on. If you are, and this episode is designed for people who are willing to, all the way to very committed to repairing that trust. What the couples I work with on this, whether they're more smaller day to day, I'm not minimizing when I say smaller, but comparatively smaller ruptures rather than like infidelity, secret family on the other side of town, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. The incongruency of you didn't follow through on your word all the way to like the big betrayals, they can feel the same. You both would be in better positions to do all that we've just described. We'll do a little memento. Put this thing backwards first. You can go back and listen to the rest of the episode after this. Again, making the agreement that you're willing to try to see them in a positive light and not get stuck in negative sentiment override, which we have another episode on, which is where you're only seeing things through shit-colored glasses. You're seeking out the negatives. You're only seeing the incongruencies, and you're choosing consciously or subconsciously to ignore when they are being this new person or their consistent self again. That is designed, your nervous system is trying to keep you safe, and it's designing your world and the way you're viewing it to be like, we don't want to get hurt again, so we're going to be on high alert for that. So when it comes to you repairing and rebuilding the trust, both of you have to make the agreement to not solely, SOLELY, adopt the mindset of this person is out to get me, this person is going to hurt me again. They might. We as couples therapists can make no promises. We have no crystal balls, or we're not soothsayers of like, oh yes, and in 7.5 years, they're going to be doing this. As long as you can get through that, then you can stay together. You need to make the agreement to not bash your partner, rehash the past, and refuse to move on from it. Because if mentally your partner's like, I'm all in, I want to repair with you, I'm attuning to you, here's all the reassurance you need, like, I am in it. And the other partner is sitting there and like, but what if you do it again? And you never move out of that mindset, which I have empathy for. And I also know that's not going to work if one partner is stagnating one place and another partner is trying to grow in that same place. So make the agreement. I'm not going to be a forensic accountant. I'm not going to be going through your phone. I'm not going to be this. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to trust you. And you can set the boundary. Please know if it happens again, we are done. Or please know if it happens again, you can set parameters on this as well to help make yourself feel safe rather than just staying in the past.
Yeah. And this makes me think about how trust is a choice. It's a risky choice.
Yes.
And the amount of trust you choose is based on what we're talking about, is the willingness of both partners. It is based on, are there trust building behaviors, trust building reassurances, the way we approach these conversations with attunement. So it's all about, no matter what, you're gonna have to make a choice to trust.
Yes.
I think this conversation is hopefully giving people things to look at to go, okay, how much do I trust? What level of choice? Am I putting that stepping stone 1 foot into the water and taking a, cautious but firm step and choosing that? Or am I going to lob it as far as I can into the water and jump? And then of course we'll
Hope for the
splash
best.
into the water and just not actually be rebuilding the trust.
Yeah.
So just acknowledging the dynamic that especially after a trust breach, when you're repairing, it's going to take a choice to choose to trust your partner again. But how much?
Right.
And if you're in collaboration discussion with your partner who's willing, then you two can kind of walk through this of, okay, we're going to trust this much right now. We're going to trust me to get the milk and you to acknowledge that I got the milk. And then afterwards, maybe we'll start getting to a place where we're going to choose to trust that when you go get the milk and you reassure me, you're the one getting it and we're in a good space. I didn't say it super cleanly on the milk example, but the point is you can do a very slow together place, just knowing every step of the way, you're going to have to make the choice. Yep, I'm choosing to trust. Okay. Next step further. Okay, here we go. Next one up. And that didn't feel good. Alarm bell, blah, blah, blah. Let's have a trust building reassurance moment. Cool. All right. Now we're going to choose again. So I'm honoring the dynamic that it's risky to trust after a rupture.
Risky to trust before a rupture too.
Yeah, it's risky to trust.
Trust is a risk. It's an inherent risk. You don't know. It's 50-50. It goes well or it goes very poorly.
Well, yeah, and trust about another person is always about, I'm going to choose this belief of this human, and it's strengthened when consistently over time you see that it's been good and positive, and it's eroded when, oh no, something bad happened. But it's always a choice and it's always a risk.
Yes Good advice.
That's all. I don't have any other personal ideas for actual ways to repair. I think I threw those
Don't trust anyone. Be like you're in the mafia. No, I'm just kidding. Could you imagine we go through this whole beautiful episode? I'm like, so in summary, don't trust anyone.
So overall, never trust. Ever.
What I've learned is that it can be very painful and icky. And no, thank you.
I think those listeners who have listened to at least Ryan talk enough know how much I love trust and how much I believe that trust, and not just believe, but I've seen how trust can be repaired and support couples do that all the time.
Same. Yeah, as much as I have the Italian mafia blood in me, which is very strong, and I love that part of me, I trust. Okay, I trust. I repair. I do the things. And I've seen many couples get through it with these steps that we've shared of you have to make that agreement. And it is a risk. It's an inherent risk, and only you, yes, it's a couple choice, but really only you can make that decision. And ideally yourself well enough by then to be like, can I move past this or not? And there are going to be some things because of your own personal morals and values, beliefs, or previous life experiences that if it's a deal breaker, if the trust is over something that's an absolute deal breaker, you would not tolerate it no matter who it was, especially a romantic partner. I wouldn't advise, this is blanket, obviously, so please take this with a grain of salt. I wouldn't advise you to break your trust with yourself, trying to repair trust with another person who's betrayed you or crossed a line that is absolutely intolerable to you that you determined prior to ever meeting them. You should have your list of deal breakers non-specific to the person you're with. They should be specific to who you are and the life that you want to live, and be very mindful in those relationships. And again, it's all a choice. Trust is all a choice. If that person betrays something that is so core to you that you feel like you're going to resent yourself day to day, that you will disrespect yourself if you do that, then my caveat is that I'm not encouraged. You don't have to do this. If you would like to trust again, here is how you can do it. If you don't want to, the choice is yours. That is up to you.
Yes. Talia's caution statement on the label always.
Yes, always. That's what I'm known for,
Yeah. Okay, good. All right, and then I think that'll do the episode. I definitely can feel that you trust me more now, Talia. Now that we've repaired,
have no reason not to. So
we've done this nice episode that has allowed us to reconnect. And I don't know how you feel about it, but I've just decided that you trust me now.
You're trustworthy. I agree. You're a trustworthy person. It's been many years that I've known you. You've been very consistent, very nice, reliable,
congruent,
always very congruent, very optimistic. You're the light in my storm. So yeah, I trust you.
Cool. Good thing I love storms.
I'm going to change my name to Storm.
Oh, wait. Never mind. I'm not
Never
going to
mind.
go that route. But thank you,
Hurricane.
listeners.
I'm going to change my name to Hurricane.
Yeah.
Hurricane Talia. I love it.
Nice.
Thank
All right,
you.
Hurricane.
Yes, thank you for listening.
Thank you, listeners, for listening to us. If you got questions that you want us to answer on the podcast, shoot us an email, Ryan and Talia at thecouplesguidepodcast.com.
Yes, you can also tune into my semi-weekly Q&As. And if you have any questions that I feel like 30 seconds can't cover, we will answer it long form on the podcast, or it will influence part of an episode like today. So yeah, see you next time.
Thanks so much. Take good care.